Hi, it's Father Samuel Hakim with a word of hope for Saturday of the 25th week in Ordinary Time. In today's first reading, we have more existential dread from the book of Ecclesiastes. As I mentioned yesterday in a word of hope, it's a book which really explores this theme of existential dread, the fact that there's nothing new under the sun. And today, the author gives some sound advice to the young. "Rejoice, O young man," he says, "while you are young, and let your heart be glad in the days of youth." Realize the goodness of being young and the wonderful things that are there. But, he says, remember your Creator in the days of your youth. Realize, too, that these good things come from God. Acknowledge your Creator, and acknowledge the goodness of God overflowing into your life, because life is going to get more difficult. Remember your Creator in the days of your youth before the evil days come, and the years approach of which you will say, "I have no pleasure in them." As we grow up, we realize that life is not so simple, so free, so easy. Perhaps as children we thought that we had difficulties, but those difficulties kind of fade into a silly place, really, as we grow, and we realize that the difficulties that we have faced are true. The difficulties that lie ahead of us are much more scary than the ones that we faced as young children. Yes, remember the goodness of God in your youth, because times are going to come where it's hard to find the goodness of God. Times are going to come that are much more difficult, filled with not just dread, but real suffering too. If we can find God in those good times, if we can become aware of God's goodness overflowing to us in those good and wonderful times, then it makes the difficult times more easy to face. Not just easy to face, but we can even find God there, and find God's goodness there. Yes, pulling us through the difficulties that we face, but also there, suffering with us. God's great compassion and love poured out to us, even in the hard moments of life. If we can do that, acknowledge God's goodness in the good times, cling to God's goodness in the difficult times, is then that our psalm response for today becomes true. In every age, O Lord, you have been our refuge. Yes, in every age, in the hard times and in the good, you indeed are our refuge. As I mentioned yesterday, this novelty of God entering into our world, of Jesus Christ born among us, is what gives meaning to that phrase, that in every age you have been our refuge because you have come to redeem us from our sins, to pull us out of this dread that we find ourselves in, and to give meaning to life itself. Yes, we have reasons for hope each and every day, with everything that we face, the joys and the pains of life. May we cling to that hope who is a person, who is Jesus Christ, and in Jesus may we find our refuge today and always.